we have a new AI video generator, and this might be the best open source option, especially if you have low VRAM. And yes, this is also uncensored. Trust me, it's the first thing I tested. So anyways, this is called HunyuanVideo 1.5 by Tencent, and in this video I'm going to go over what it can do, plus I'm going to compare it with the leading open source video model, Hunyuan 2.2, and of course I'm going to show you step by step how to install this and run it on your computer offline. Make sure you stick to the end because I'm also going to show you how to run this even if you have low VRAM. Let's jump right in. Alright, so first here are some of their official demos. HunyuanVideo 1.5 is particularly good at generating smooth motions. So here's an example of a figure skater performing a spin, and you can see that not only is everything anatomically correct, but the motions are also very smooth and realistic. Here's another generation of a DJ, and again, notice that his motions plus his expressions are all very realistic. It also has some pretty nice aesthetics, so this is quite good for generating cinematic shots or B-roll. So for example, here are some leaves shining in the sunlight dotted with dewdrops. Very nice. This is also a lot better in terms of rendering text in the video. For example, here is a cyberpunk street corner with a neon sign that says HunyuanVideo 1.5. It also has a much better understanding of physics. So for example, here is an intact soda can slowly crushed by a hand, and you can see that everything is physically correct. This is definitely a huge improvement compared to the first version of HunyuanVideo. And here's my favorite feature about Hunyuan 1.5. It can support multiple camera movements in your prompt, so you can completely control how the camera moves in the scene. For example, in our prompt, we can have the camera slowly panning down to reveal a cute long-haired white cat. It's also impressive how it's able to shift the focus on the cat as if this was shot by a professional camera. Or here's another example where we can have the camera gradually pull back and rise to reveal a vast desert landscape. And that's indeed what you get. So it's really good at actually following the instructions in your prompt. It also supports multiple styles like anime or retro or claymation. So here's just one of their examples where we have this cake man begin to take chunks out of himself and eat it. Or here's a girl in claymation style. Now I'm sure most of you out there aren't going to use text to video but image to video instead, where you would first create an image and use that as the first frame of the video. Now the nice thing is HunyuanVideo 1.5 already supports image to video. I'll show you exactly how to do that, but first, here's an example where this is the input frame, and here's the result. Look how cinematic this is. Very impressive. I really like the aesthetics of HunyuanVideo. It kind of has a more cinematic, artsy effect compared to Hunyuan 2.2. Next, here are some of my personal tests between HunyuanVideo 1.5 and the current leading open source video model, Hunyuan 2.2. Notice that this is just 2.2 and not 2.5 because they haven't actually released 2.5 yet. There's no indication whether Hunyuan 2.5 will actually be open source. So here, I'm only comparing this to Hunyuan 2.2. So first, here's a quick zoom up to a man's face looking very confused. He's in the middle of a crowded marketplace with explosions everywhere. The camera rotates around him quickly as he looks around in panic. And as you can see, Hunyuan handles this way better. The camera does rotate around him quickly as he looks around in panic. And this is a crowded marketplace with explosions everywhere. For Hunyuan 2.2, I don't know why, but the speed is kind of messed up. Plus the camera isn't really orbiting around him and he's not really looking around in panic. His face isn't really moving much. So as you can see in this example, Hunyuan is clearly better. Alright, next I wanted to test how good it is at anatomy. So here we have a young figure skater gracefully ice skating on a frozen river that winds through a snowy mountainous canyon. For Hunyuan 1.5, the motions are okay. I'm trying to really critique if it's anatomically correct, and so far I don't really see anything wrong with this. The only flaw, I guess, is that the hands and fingers aren't really defined in this scene. And then for Hunyuan 2.2, you can see it's not as anatomically good, especially her arms. So I mean, just from these two base models, it seems like Hunyuan 1.5 is slightly better in terms of these tricky anatomy scenes. Alright, here's another crazy example. We have a skilled parkour athlete sprinting through the city, leaping and doing many flips over urban obstacles. both of them are not great. So like for Hunyuan 1.5, the dude isn't even trying. He's not like doing any flips over urban obstacles. Plus his hands are kind of messed up at times. And then if you look at Wan 2.2, it's a bit noisier. It is higher action, but again, the dude isn't really flipping. He's just jumping across the scene. It seems like this dude is trying a bit harder, but it's quite noisy and the hands and fingers are also messed up. So in this example, I would say it's a tie. None of them are perfect, but I would say that Hunyuan 1.5 does look a bit more coherent. Alright, next I wanted to see if it can actually understand existing characters. So the prompt is Naruto, One Punch Man, and SpongeBob chatting at a cafe. Now interestingly, for both video models, they could only understand SpongeBob, but not the rest of the characters. And in fact, Wan 2.2 could actually generate this animation a bit better. But that's okay because both of these are open source, which means they have support for these fine-tuned models called LoRAs, which allows you to basically add any camera movements or animation or effect or any character you want. So here's just one example of a LoRA for Wan. Or if you want to generate Elastigirl from The Incredibles, here's another LoRA. Or here's Rapunzel. So, that's the benefit of open source. The base model is just mediocre, but you can add these fine-tunes on top of it to really control what you want in the generation. So anyways, back to this, while this cannot understand a ton of existing characters, you can add LoRAs on top of your workflow in order to actually generate those characters. Here's another example testing its prompt understanding and following. So the prompt is a child climbs a ladder bridging dual dimensions. The left half is a bustling city skyline at dawn. The right half is an ancient ruined temple under moonlight. And actually, both of these are not bad, but I would say Hunyuan 1.5 is a bit more coherent. Whereas for Wan 2.2, it's just kind of split screening the scene, so the dimensions don't really blend in seamlessly. Plus, Wan 2.2 doesn't really have moonlight, which I specified in the prompt. So again, for this example, I would have to prefer Hunyuan 1.5. Alright, here's another example testing not only its understanding of camera movements, but also its ability to generate text. So here the prompt is the camera pushes in towards the couple kissing, then it's tilting up to show the sky and overlay text, and they lived happily ever after. So Hunyuan 1.5 actually got the camera movement correct. It's first pushing in and then tilting up to show the sky. However, as you can see, it could not get the text correct. And then for Wan 2.2, it could not even get the camera motion correct. So again, in terms of really controlling for the camera motion, Hunyuan 1.5 is a bit better. Now, both these models can handle image to video, so here I'm going to upload this image, and then for the prompt, get them to fight intensely. High action, fast movements. And actually, Hunyuan was able to generate much faster movements, however, the hands and fingers are kind of messed up, which is expected because this is such a fast-moving shot. And then for Wan 2.2, it's slower, but everything is more coherent. So let me know in the comments which one you prefer. And then of course, with these open source uncensored models, we gotta test out jiggle physics. So I'm gonna upload this photo and simply get her to run. And here's the result from both Hunyuan and Wan. It's a pretty close call here. Both the jiggle physics are pretty good. It seems like Hunyuan has a bit more contrast and definition, but Wan has faster movements. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Alright, next up, let's see how good it is at generating dancing videos. So I'm gonna upload this photo and get them to sing and dance in sync. For Hunyuan 1.5, it's a bit more cinematic. You can see the camera actually moving as well. However, for the majority of the scene, the hands and fingers are distorted and really noisy. For Wan, the camera remains static, and it seems like they're dancing and moving way faster, but you can also see some noticeable warping and errors with the hands and fingers. So both of them are not perfect. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Alright, next let's test it on some high action epic scenes. So I'm gonna upload this photo and have the monster destroy the city, civilians fleeing, high action, shaky camera, etc. So for Hunyuan, it wasn't really able to generate a high action, shaky camera shot. You can see Godzilla is moving really slowly. Even the people are not really running quickly, they're just jogging. And then for Wan 2.2, it's much higher action, and you can see Godzilla actually attempting to destroy the city. However, a lot of these effects are like physically incorrect, so I would have to say Hunyuan 1.5 is a bit more coherent. Next, let's test it on anime, so I'm gonna upload this photo and I'm not even gonna enter a prompt. Let's see what it can generate. So both of them are able to actually detect this image and generate a scene of these three cyclists. And then for Hunyuan 1.5, it's able to also animate these characters, including their hair blowing in the wind, plus it's also getting them to talk a bit and move their heads. One flaw is that their mouths don't really look correct as they talk. And then for Hunyuan 2.2, it's also able to animate their hair blowing in the wind and their heads moving, and they're also kind of talking. This is, again, a really close call. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Alright, finally, I'm going to upload this photo and get it to generate some influencer video. So the prompt would be a TikTok influencer talking about the diffuser, and here's what we get. Again, both of them are not bad. The woman is talking quite slow in both videos, but I guess I could edit this and fast forward it during post-processing. But, both models are able to generate this person talking about this product. So, with both these open source models, you can easily create images of any influencer you want holding your product and mass produce these videos on social media. That sums up my quick tests on Hunyuan 1.5 versus Hunyuan 2.2. I would say the quality is similar. Hunyuan definitely is a lot better with camera control. I would say it's very close between these two models. It's really hard for me to pick a winner. And then for your reference, here are some benchmark scores comparing Hunyuan 1.5 with Hunyuan 2.2. Interestingly, for most of these benchmarks, including instruction following, visual quality, structural stability, and motion effects, Hunyuan 1.5 does outperform Hunyuan 2.2, at least according to these benchmarks. Now that's just text to video. Here's image to video, and it seems like, again, Hunyuan video is better for instruction following, visual quality, and motion effects. But you can see that Hunyuan 2.2, which is the light blue bar, does better in terms of structural stability as well as image consistency. And then here they've asked users to compare videos generated with Hunyuan Video versus Hunyuan 2.2 using the same prompt, and apparently Hunyuan Video has a higher win rate, at least in terms of text to video. In terms of image to video, again, Hunyuan Video, which is the purple bar, has a higher win rate than Hunyuan 2.2. Now, just from my quick initial tests, they are very close. I would have to give it a tie between both models. Let's move on to its specs. So Hunyuan Video 1.5 can produce videos of 5 to 10 seconds. You could produce longer videos like 15 or 20 seconds, but the quality just starts deteriorating after 10 seconds. Also note that this is an 8.3 billion parameter model, which is really tiny. Note that Hunyuan 2.2 is 14 billion parameters. So because Hunyuan Video is smaller, this makes it more efficient, and you can run this on most consumer-grade GPUs, as I'll show you in a second. Now, they've actually released two different variants. One model can generate 480p videos, and another variant can generate 720p videos. In addition to this, you can also plug your generation through this super resolution enhancement, which is basically an upscaler that converts your video to 1080p. So natively, it will only produce a maximum of 720p resolution, but in addition, you can plug it through this workflow to upscale it to 1080p. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out Mago, the sponsor of this video. This is a powerful video-to-video creation platform, which means you can transform and stylize your videos to edit them however you like. For example, I can upload this video and then choose the top image editors out there to first edit the frame into a cyberpunk city. Perfect, so I like this one, so let's click on Use This, and I can basically apply this frame to edit my original video. Here is the final rendered video. Or I can easily change the character of a video into anything I want. This isn't just any video restyler, but an end-to-end solution where you can modify and iterate on your videos in an intuitive timeline. You actually control the transformation with control nets and advanced settings instead of praying your prompt behaves. The two best things for me are that you can render videos up to 1 minute long, so forget the 10-second limit. You can also do your full transformation directly in the app, from creating your reference images to working precisely on each shot and scaling your final render into a single clean project. I'll let you in on a little secret. Mago is currently in closed beta, but you can get instant access using my link in the description below. Plus, you can use my code AI Search for 50% off the first month on the Pro plan. Try it out today. All right, next let's go over how and where you can use this. If you want to first try it out online, over here, you can try it on their website. So it's one of these two buttons. This one is for text to video, this one is for image to video. So let's click on this one, and you do need to sign up for a free account first, but once you're in, you should see this interface, and here is where you can select from HunyuanVideo, text to video, or image to video. So let's just do text to video. And then over here is where you can choose the resolution. Here's where you would enter the prompt and choose the aspect ratio. And then here you can choose to have it rewrite your prompt to add more details, or you can turn this off. So that's basically their online interface. Next, let's go over how you can actually download this and run it locally on your computer for unlimited times offline. If you look at their official GitHub repo, first of all, note that here it says, at least for this original base model, it requires a CUDA GPU with a minimum of 14 gigabytes of VRAM. But later in this video, I'm also going to show you how you can use some more compressed versions, in particular some GGUF models, which only require like 6 gigabytes of VRAM to run. Now, on this official GitHub repo, they give you some instructions on how you can just run this with Python code, but this is not really intuitive, so what we're going to do instead is use ComfyUI, which is this graphical interface, and this is the most popular platform for running open source image, video, and audio generators. If you haven't heard of ComfyUI, definitely see this video for a full installation tutorial and how to use it. Anyways, back to here, this assumes you already have ComfyUI installed. Now, the awesome thing about HunyuanVideo 1.5 is it's already natively integrated into ComfyUI. So I'm going to link to this page in the description below, which contains all the instructions on how to set up HunyuanVideo 1.5 on ComfyUI. Now, there are a few ways to get started. Here it says I can simply open up ComfyUI and search in templates for the workflow. So what I'm going to do is first run ComfyUI, and then in Manager, the first thing we need to do is actually press Update ComfyUI to update to the latest version. This is required in order to support HunyuanVideo 1.5. Afterwards, let's click on Restart and then click on Confirm to finish the update. And then afterwards, going back to the instructions, it seems like I can just search for HunyuanVideo in templates. So on this left side window, let's click on templates, or alternatively, I can also click here and then click Browse Templates. And then let's search for Hunyuan. Now, at least for me, it doesn't seem like I have HunyuanVideo 1.5 over here. I think I might be too early to this, but that's okay. If you don't see this, next we're going to go over how you can install this manually. So next, if we scroll down a bit, here are the workflows for HunyuanVideo 1.5. This one is for image to video, and this one is for text to video. So let me click on both of these. Notice that if I just click on this, it opens the raw JSON code. So in order to save it, what I actually need to do is right click and then click Save Link As. I can save this wherever I want. I'm just going to save it in my root ComfyUI folder. And then let me do the same for text to video. So again, I'm going to right click and then click Save Link As. Okay, perfect. Now, the nice thing about ComfyUI is I don't need to actually program all these nodes and noodles from scratch. I can just drag and drop an existing workflow onto here. So let's start with this text to video workflow. I'm just going to take this JSON file and drag and drop it onto my interface, and voila, here is the full ComfyUI workflow pre-built for me. Now, before I go over how to run this, first of all, we also need to download some additional models in order for this to work. The nice thing is, in this card over here, they already linked all the models that you need to download to get started. So the first thing we need to download is this Qwen 2.5 VL text encoder. So let's click on this, and this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then text encoders. Notice that this is around 9 gigabytes in size. And then afterwards, we also need to download this byte5 small file. So let's click on this. And again, this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then text encoders. This one is smaller, it's only like 400 megabytes. Next up, let's proceed to download the HunyuanVideo model. Now here you can see that this model over here is for text to video, and this outputs 720p resolution videos. This is mandatory, but if you want to upscale this further to 1080p, then you can also download this optional 1080p SR file, which I'll show you how to operate in a second. So for me, let's go ahead and download both these files. I'm going to click on this one, and this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then diffusion models. Note that this 1080p file is like 15.5 gigabytes in size. Afterwards, let's click on this one, and this also goes in ComfyUI, in Models, and then Diffusion Models. Note that this one is also 15.5 gigabytes in size. Alright, afterwards, the final thing we need to download is this VAE. So let's click on this, and this goes in ComfyUI, in Models, and then VAE. Note that this one is 2.3 gigabytes in size. Alright, now after all this is done, let's press R to refresh your models list, and then in this step 1 card over here, this is where we can click on each dropdown and select the model we just downloaded. So let me click on this first, and then select the model I just downloaded. Same with this one, let's select Qwen 2.5, and then here let's select this Byte 5 small, and then finally for VAE, let me select this one. And that's pretty much it. So note that this workflow is text to video only, so here is where you would enter a text prompt, and then here's where you would enter a negative prompt, which are all the things you want to exclude from the video. And then over here, we have this optional step called Easy Cache. Note that here it says Easy Cache can speed up this workflow, but at the sacrifice of some quality. So if you want to speed up your generation, simply click on this and then press Ctrl B, or what you can also do is click this button over here to basically activate it. And then here for step 4, here's where you would set the width and height and length of the video. So if you pan all the way up here, note that it's 24 frames per second. And then here for length, this is basically how many frames. So if you want to generate a 5-second video, it's 5 times 24, so that would be roughly 120 frames. And for batch size, this is how many videos you want to generate at once. So a batch size of 1 would generate 1 video. And that's pretty much it. That's the basic workflow on how you can generate a video. So let me try something like a giant cat wearing aviator goggles races across a desert with a child clinging on its back. The cat runs so fast that it leaves a trail of fire. Let's press run. Alright, and here's what we get. Now notice that this was actually quite painfully slow. So with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, that took around like 35 minutes to generate a 5-second video. And note that this is a save video node, so this is automatically saved in your ComfyUI output folder, as you can see over here. Notice that here we have another VAE option called VAE tiled. If you find that it's too slow at generating videos, not only can you turn on this Easy Cache node, but down here it says you can also use the VAE decode tiled if it takes too long. So what you can do is over here, you can press Ctrl B or click this one to unbypass it. But remember, if you use this, then you also need to click on this and then press Ctrl B to bypass the original VAE decode. Anyways, that's how you can create a 720p video with just a text prompt. Now remember that over here, we also downloaded this 1080p upscaler. So let's go over how to use this right now. It's basically this entire section, so I'm just going to hold down Control and then drag across all these nodes and then press Ctrl B to activate or unbypass them. Alright, so here's how this works. Basically, once your prompt goes through all this mess, well, it then gets routed to over here, where it will use the upscaler which we just downloaded to basically generate a 1080p video. Now over here is where we would click on this dropdown and select the 1080p model we just downloaded. However, in addition to this, it seems like this card did not mention an additional model which we need, which is this latent upsampler. So what we actually need to do is I'm going to link to this Hugging Face repo by ComfyUI, and then in Files and Versions, and then Split Files, and then in Latent Upscale Models, here is where we can download this latent upsampler. Notice that this is 200 megabytes in size. So let's download this one. I'm going to click Download, and this goes in ComfyUI, and then in Models, and this goes in Latent Upscale Models. Let's click Save. Alright, afterwards, let's press R to refresh our model list, and then in this dropdown, you should be able to select this newly downloaded upsampler. So let's select this. Here again, we have this Easy Cache node, which will help speed up your generation at the sacrifice of some quality. And then here is the upscale method. You can choose from all these different algorithms. I just tend to leave it at the default. And then here's the width and height and the frames per second, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so that was text to video. Next, let's also go over image to video. Again, it's super simple. You just need to take the image to video workflow, which you just downloaded, and then drag and drop it onto your interface like this. And it's pretty much the same as the text to video workflow. So first you need to start by actually downloading the models in this card. Notice that for these two text encoders, we've already downloaded them in the previous workflow. However, there's this additional clip vision model, which you need to download. So let's click on this, and this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then in clip vision. Note that this is 836 megabytes. And then afterwards, we also need to download this Hunyuan image to video model. So let's click on this one, and this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then diffusion models. Note that this one is 15.5 gigabytes in size. Now, if you have lower VRAM and you want to download a smaller model at the sacrifice of some quality, well, there's already a quantized version of this. So if you click on this HunyuanVideo repackaged link, which will take you here, and then you click on diffusion models, there's a ton of models you can actually choose from. If you look for 720p and then image to video, notice that there's already this FP8 version, which is like half the size. Notice that they only have FP8 for image to video, they don't have an FP8 for text to video yet. So you could also choose to download this file instead. And then afterwards, you also need this VAE, which we've already downloaded from the previous workflow. And that's pretty much it. Now again, after downloading all these models, it's best to press the R key to refresh your model list, and then we can move on to step 1. So here is where we can choose to load the image to video model, and then we also need to click on each drop down here to select the appropriate downloaded model. Same with this one over here, and this one over here. And then afterwards, for step 2, here's where we upload an image to use as the first frame. So let's try an anime example. And then moving up here, here's where you would set the positive prompt and negative prompt. Let's just do something simple like they are talking. And then moving on to step 4, here is where you would specify the width and height of your final video. So right now this is like 16:9. Notice that my original image is not 16:9. So over here is where I can choose to crop this at the center so that it fits my specified output dimensions over here. And then the length, again, is basically the length of your video. This is how many frames divided by 24 frames per second. For this demo, just to make it really fast, let's just set this to 2 seconds, which is around 50 frames. And then for batch size, again, this is how many videos you want to generate at once. All right, and then all these settings are the same as before. You can click on this easy cache node and press Ctrl B to activate this, and this will help speed up your generation a bit more at the sacrifice of some quality. And then it will go through this sampler and then create your final video over here. And that's pretty much it. Let's press run. And here's what we get. As you can see, it can also do anime scenes very well. Alright, let me pause the video, and then like before, you can also plug it through this upscaler to convert it into 1080p. So all you need to do is hold Control and then drag over all these windows, and then press this button here or Control B to unbypass these nodes, and then just click Run again. Alright, so that sums up how you can do image to video or text to video using the official ComfyUI workflow. Now, what if you go on their GitHub and you see this and you're like, I don't even have 14 gigabytes of VRAM? Well, in that case, this section is for you, because fortunately, in addition to these official models, which are like 16 gigabytes in size, there are already smaller, more compressed models called GGUFs that were released by this guy, Jane7. So he has released both image to video 720p GGUFs as well as text to video. For me, I'm just going to show you an image to video example, but it's the same thing for text to video. So let me click on this, and then let's click on files and versions. And then notice that here, this user has released a few different models of different compression levels. So you would simply pick the one that can fit on your VRAM. So if you have 6 gigabytes, then you could probably get away with all of these. If you have 12 gigabytes, then you can even use this Q8 one, which is only 9 gigabytes. For me, I'm just going to select the smallest one, which is only like 4.9 gigabytes. So I'm going to click download, and this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then in UNet. All right, and then afterwards, going back to my image to video workflow, what we need to do is double click anywhere here, and then search for UNet, and I'm going to select this one, UNet Loader GGUF. By the way, if you don't have this node, what you need to do is click on Manager and then click on Custom Nodes Manager. And then at the top here, search for GGUF. And then the one you'll need to install is this one, ComfyUI GGUF by City96. So after you've installed that, you should be able to search for and load up this UNet loader. Now afterwards, again, let me press R to refresh my model list because I just downloaded the GGUF. Afterwards, I can click on this dropdown and select this HunyuanVideo Q4 GGUF. Now what we need to do is basically replace this diffusion model node with this GGUF node. So it seems like this diffusion model is linked to over here. So let me just drag a noodle onto this, which would automatically disconnect this one. And that's pretty much it. So instead of loading the original HunyuanVideo model, in fact, I can just press this button to disable it. What we are going to do is load the GGUF, which is going to be way faster. And that's pretty much it. That's the only thing you need to replace. Afterwards, let me press run again so you can see the quality of this smallest Q4 GGUF. All right, and here's what we get. Notice that the dude's hair is all messed up. This is noticeably lower quality, but that's the sacrifice you'll have to make if you choose to use the smallest Q4 GGUF. Anyways, that sums up my review on HunyuanVideo 1.5 and how to install it on your computer. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. If you've been playing around with this, how does it compare to 1.2.2 for you? Also, if you run into any errors during the installation, welcome to paste the error message in the comments below, and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.